Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of The Beauty in You. I am so excited. Happy New Year. We're going to give this thing a try one more time. I'm going to go ahead and bring Kate in while we have some connection. We will get started. Fingers crossed.
Hello.
Oh,
Oh,
it works.
it worked. I don't know what happened there,
Me
but
either.
I don't know if I was the only one who couldn't hear you, or maybe they also. I don't know if it wasn't recording your voice. Anyway, water under the bridge.
Welcome.
Hi.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so happy that you are here and that we finally made this work.
Yeah.
I've been so excited to get with you and just to continue talking to you and pick your brain, just to talk more about your rediscovery journey and what got you to where you are today. So let's first just start out by explaining your rediscovery journey to everybody.
Yeah. So I guess for me, the rediscovery journey was always motherhood. I
Mhm.
mean, I don't know if you hear that a lot. That's probably the main thing, but it just is something you just redefine everything about your priorities and your job and the way that you have to run your life, basically. So up until I had my daughter, I was a teacher. I was working at schools and teaching English as a second language. I was working overseas. I have basically been outside of Canada now for the last 15 years. And then I met my German while overseas. We moved to Germany. Then we moved again and then again to his hometown. So, we're just constantly uprooting again and again and again. And then we had our daughter. And then we started building our house. And at the same time, I was trying to figure out, how can I teach and how can I keep going with something that's mine? And I don't know, you know, about you and where you are in the States, but for me, I found it really interesting how bitter I could become. I like moved to my husband's country, and there's his language and his family and his friends and his car, for God's sake. And I came with like 2 suitcases with 3 pairs of shoes, and he had pots and pans and like everything was his.
Mhm.
Right. And then we move even more so to his hometown where all of his friends are looking forward to his return. And again, I have nobody. And then we actually moved to this town. I was 7 months pregnant. So I was not in a place to be going out and socializing and allowing my husband to be drinking until 3 o'clock in the morning so that I could be the DD to bring him home. So it's just a struggle. And then back in those days, this was 2014. My husband even worked nearby, but he would go out and play basketball, and that would bug me.
Yeah.
And then he would go out to his once a year Christmas party with the company, and that would bug me because I'm at home with my daughter and I'm not going anywhere. So after I had my second child, I guess started working again and getting my own groove and figuring my stuff out, getting a grasp of the language. Like it was such an uphill battle for me.
Mhm.
And then I got pregnant with my son. And I mean, obviously, I was happy about it. We wanted a second child. That's all good. But I remember saying to him, I'm not taking a year off
Yeah.
to sit at home and have nothing again. I'm not doing it.
Yep.
And in Germany, they have the 1 year, so they almost look at you like you're crazy if you take less than the year. They're like, but why? Or you can't be desperate for money. Germany pays you to stay home. Like, no, 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 work please,
Yep. Work.
work please, something for me. And I like if I actually go back just a little bit, I was this pregnant with my son, and my two of my brother-in-laws were over. My husband's the youngest of four, and two of his oldest brothers were over. And they said something to me about doing webinars. They were like, "You should do webinars." And I was like, "What's a webinar?" And I was like, it's just in my head, I'm thinking, I'm pregnant. I can't tell you guys yet, but I have no interest in starting something crazy and new.
Mhm.
And it was in and around when he was 4 months old that I thought, you know what, I have to start doing something for me, something that I'm in control of.
Mhm.
So when I can pick when I can work and when I can't work, because as all mothers know, if anyone in the house, sometimes even including my husband, if anyone in the house is sick, my job is the first to go.
Yep.
So, it's what do I do? How do I create something that can work around, basically around my kids? Because at the time I thought it was like around my needs, but my needs were very much my kids at the time. And that's what I did.
And
And
the
that
rest
was
is
my
history.
yeah.
Because you're killing it, and we're gonna definitely get there. But something that you said was just like moving to my husband's country and his friends, and I mean, I can
Mhm.
so relate. Same thing. Like we're in DC, and this is not. I'm from Georgia. I'm not
Okay.
from here,
Yeah. Okay.
and so I moved to my husband's state with his family,
Yeah.
with his friends, and I'm the
Mhm.
one that had to start over. And when I
Mhm.
moved here, my daughter was 10 months.
Wow.
And so like not having and my best friend is here. Um, but that took some time to like, where do
Mhm.
you live? Let's get together, trying to get to a new place. So that I mean that was hard.
Mhm.
And work, trying to find work. I wasn't on full-time orders at the time. My orders were still part-time military orders. So I still had to find full-time work
Right.
at that time. But just that feeling like that bitterness, like that anger, like it's not fair.
It's real. That bitterness is real, and
Girl.
it's not fair to you, it's not
Mhm.
fair to them, because of course you made this choice, but at the
Right.
same time you're like, "But I have to
Ugh,
give up everything
everything. Yeah.
so that you can be as
Successful as
comfortable
you want.
as ever."
Yep.
Yeah, it's unreal.
It
Yeah.
just I'm like, ugh, and I just remember like even before we got here, we were in West Virginia, but with Aaliyah, I was on bed rest
Mm,
for majority of that pregnancy. So I'm like, and my everything stopped. Like for
yeah.
me, in my eyes, everything just
Mhm.
stopped. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I'm not the one that can stay home. Um, that's just not how
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
operate. And there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's different, but that doesn't work for me.
Mhm.
And so I was just like, this is just not fair. But then am I just supposed to be the supportive wife? Like that's my job, right? To be the
Right.
supportive wife and just take care of the kids. That's what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to want more. Right. So
Right.
that was my
Right.
struggle. Like, is it, can I do more? Can I have it all? Can I be happy doing what I want to do, but still provide for them? Is that possible? So it's like you having those conversations like,
And in so many ways, the answer is no. Like, sometimes it's a nicer no, and sometimes it's a really harsh
harsh
no.
no. Mhm.
But like, in so many ways, the answer is no. And for me, it was like, well, you can work. I'm supported here. My husband is great. He wants me to work too. He doesn't want me at home if I don't want to be at home.
Mhm.
So, like, in that way, like, theoretically, the answer is yes. However, if my daughter gets sick, if my son gets sick, if something happens where my mother-in-law, who takes my kids on certain days when contracts run longer,
Mhm.
if she's sick, then I have to cancel based on them. If there's moments when my husband is traveling for work and I have to cancel my job because someone has to be here.
Mhm.
So it's not as simple as just, okay, well, we're moms and we're working. There's m-
Sacrifices.
sacrifices have to be made, and off like 99.9% of those sacrifices were on my shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's tough. And
it
it
is.
still happens. Like, is there's no like we talk about balance, work-life balance, but it's always topsy-turvy.
Hmm.
It's always like
Yeah.
you're gonna give here and turn, here. And that even now, like even talking about my schedule, we kind of talked about it behind stage. It's just like my military job is like
Yeah.
blowing in full force right now. And it's a struggle for me because I have TCM that I poured so much into. And I'm like,
Hmm.
like, what do
Yeah.
I do? And how do I balance this? How do I maintain this? Like, am I going to even be able to do this? Which I know that I can, but it's just finding that right rhythm and getting that going. Like, it's
Yeah.
scary. And it's
Yeah.
just always something that we have, like, every choice that we make, it involves not that our husbands don't, but it involves us thinking about the whole picture. Like, how does it
Mhm.
affect the kids? How does it affect my husband? How does it affect my household? How does it affect my business?
Absolutely, absolutely, exactly, exactly. Yeah, it is not easy for sure.
No.
So, I mean, that was the basis of my rediscovery. It's the basis of yours. It's the basis of, I'm sure, most people who are
Most women.
watching this as well, is like motherhood is so wonderful,
Mhm.
but it also just knocks you right upside the head because I don't know about you, but when I started really seriously thinking about getting pregnant, I'm married, have a husband, he wants kids, I want kids, I'm kind of ready. Um, I don't know. I always just thought about the pregnancy. I didn't think
Mhm.
about the kids. And like for me, like Phoebe from Friends eating ice cream off of her belly. That was like my version of what pregnancy was like. I could do that. That's not a
Yeah.
problem at all. And then you're like, oh no, there's so much more that
Mhm.
actually, and I don't know if we just don't hear it or if we're not ready to hear it or if there's some big secret to not tell the next generations of what this actually
Yeah.
entails. It's not easy.
It's not. And I one of the lives I did, I think last year we kind of talked about the ugly sides of motherhood, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, yeah, when you're pregnant, everyone's like, oh, you get to buy little outfits, you get to
Yeah.
buy little this, little that, and it's gonna be so cute. And oh my God, you get to take cute baby pictures. But then you have the baby and you're like, okay, but they cry and then they want to eat every 2 hours. And then I'm nursing. Oh my God, they won't latch. And oh my God, it hurts to nurse. No one told me
Yeah.
that part. And the pumping part and the stress. So it's like all of those things that no one really talks about, which I think it's important to talk about. And I try to make it apparent to talk, especially to some of my clients, like,
Yeah.
it's okay to talk about it because we're human and we feel those things. It's
Mhm.
okay to be angry. It's okay not to always be smiling. It's okay to be tired.
Yeah.
We're not robots. Like all of those things in motherhood that we don't talk about, which are like the not so pretty parts, it's the main things we need to be talking about because postpartum is real.
Absolutely.
And for years, I mean, I know with my son, I didn't know then, but now that I'm more educated on it, I know now
Mhm.
that that's what I was going through.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
I was so afraid to even talk about these like feelings because I'm like, am I crazy? Which we don't use that word, right? But it's like, am
Mhm.
I, if I talk to someone about that, what are they going to think about me as a mom? Are they going to think I'm a bad mom that I feel this way?
Yeah.
Like, what is that? And it's like, God, I wish that someone would have talked about it more with me so I wouldn't feel so ashamed and alone,
Mhm.
you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, with my daughter, so she's 8 now.
Mm.
After the birth, I actually had a post oh, I don't even remember, post what's the PPH something, post-pregnancy,
Mhm.
uh, I can't believe that I forgot the words. They were, like, on the tip of my tongue for years.
It's okay.
When you, I wanna say hem not hematoma, basically, I lost 2 liters of blood,
Okay. Wow.
and that was it was very, very bad. They actually they said I could get a blood transfusion, but they were speaking in German, and I didn't really speak German at the time, and they were kind of like, the way that they said it made me feel like I could have one if I really wanted to,
Mhm.
and then they kinda said, like, "Well, but just so you know, any, like, we screen the blood and things, but any blood could have illness in it, and then you could give a lot of those illnesses through your milk now too." Like, they really kind of painted this picture that it wasn't necessary and that it could harm the baby.
Mhm.
So I went, "Well, then I won't do it." But what ended up happening was I needed 6 months of intensive vitamin therapy to try and rejuvenate my own blood back, and they
Wow.
also didn't let me know that when your body is trying to make 2 liters worth of blood, it's not gonna make milk.
Mm.
So I had nights of a screaming child. She was still gaining weight.
Mhm.
So, like, she wasn't underweight. She wasn't, it never got scary in that way, but she was hungry. And at the end of the day, she was like, suckling. And then I'm trying to get her to, I thought everything was working fine, but I
Mhm.
wasn't told to look out for certain symptoms.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I went through a phase. I wanna say it was like a full year, And it was like after a couple of months, I felt like a cloud had lifted over my head, or like a hat had been taken off my head, and then you think I'm back to myself again, and then there's a new hat coming off, and then 3 months later, and like I honestly sometimes I feel like maybe the hats are still coming off, where I'm
Oh
still
yeah.
coming out of that cloud
Mm.
of babies. Like I told you, my son's 5th birthday is tomorrow,
Yay,
and
happy birthday.
I'm like, I don't have a baby anymore, and we haven't had diapers for a while and all of that stuff, but like I still feel like those like clouds are still lifting in
Yeah.
their own little way, which is um, kind of shocking, only because I thought I was back to normal, and then you're like, oh, and then now it feels good again. It feels better than it did before. So I think that there's a huge value in talking about this stuff, because I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I didn't get it even 5 years ago, and I would like to think that we're pretty modern.
We're getting past it. Yeah. I mean,
I would like to think so.
we have to change it. We have to
Yep.
change the way we view mental health. We have to change the way we view motherhood, and that there's all different types of mothers out there, and we don't have to fit one mold. And so I think that part is still kind of like new,
Yeah.
because, we're doing a lot more now. And I
Mm.
hate, so if I'm like regular, like this is regular because I'm not in a uniform, right? So they're like, oh, okay, what do you do? Which is like, oh, okay. If I say, oh, I'm an empowerment coach, and I have Dutch Quita Mack, they're like, oh, okay. And then they see me the next day in uniform, they're like, you're in the army? But then the
Yeah.
response I always get after that is like, "Oh, I could never leave my kids." Oh, well, that's
Mm.
shade.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah.
always
Thank
like,
you so much.
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, they're pretty healthy. They're good.
Yeah.
They're doing great.
That was an incredibly helpful comment you just
Yeah.
made.
So it's always like it's still it's what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. We're making way, but
Yeah.
we're not, and it's like, don't judge.
Yeah.
As long
Yeah.
as we're out here doing our thing, our kids are healthy. My kids are very resilient. Um,
Yes, they
yeah,
are.
it should all be fine, but it's just a new time. I just try to make it known, like especially my platform, that it's okay to be human. It's
Mhm.
okay to want more, and it's okay if you have days that you struggle. It's like all of these things are normal, and you're human because of that. Like, we're not
Yeah.
freaking robots.
No, no. And I think, you know, I see as well, like I want to say this without sounding judgmental, and I don't know how. So I hope that you mean that you take this in the least judgy way
Yeah.
for me to say it. I know you know me, but like anyone watching this, I hope you know that I'm not judging. But when I see the parents that hold themselves to incredibly high, almost impossible standards, you end up as well with kids who hold themselves to incredibly high, almost impossible standards. And
Mhm.
I almost think of it as like a gift to my children to release them of all of that perfectionism,
Yes.
because there's two things that I do with my kids, and I do them on purpose. Actually, there's more than that too. I mean, like I was setting up this office behind me, for example, and I had my daughter come downstairs and help me, and she said something about like, so who's your boss? Because dad's always gotta answer to someone, and I'm like, well, me. And she's like, you're your boss? And I was like, yeah. And she said, are you boss to anybody else? I said, yeah, I got a team of 8 people across the world. And I'm going to say that, and I'm going to say it
Yeah.
with real confidence in this moment, because I
Mhm.
want her to hear it, and I want her to feel it and go, hmm. And she's incredibly proud of me. Like every time we come downstairs, this office is relatively new. The basement is relatively new.
Mhm.
She will tell people like, my mom owns her own company. There's some merchandise off to the side, and she'll be like, this is my mom's company. This is what she does. And I want her to see that. I want
Yeah.
her to see that I can have both, and actually that I created this with and for her.
Mhm.
And then as well, I have a friend who had mentioned that their daughter was showing some real signs of like negative perfectionism, right? Like the perfectionism is probably in most people, but the really negative signs of perfectionism. And I said, make mistakes on purpose in front of your kids and go, oops, ha 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 ha. Well, I guess I got to start that one over because I made a big mistake over here.
Mhm.
Like show them that you're making mistakes and that mistakes are okay. Because honestly, that is the biggest gift to them, is to go, well, my mom just She made mistakes all the time, and they might laugh later, like, and go, really, you did all of that on purpose? Like, I said, for years. And I mean, my son is 5. I must have been saying for the last 3 years, at the very least, no one is perfect and nothing is perfect.
Yeah.
No one is perfect. And I would say, like, it got to the point where I would say, are you perfect? And they go, no one is perfect. Instinct. No one is perfect. Like, that's right. No
Yeah,
one is
no one
perfect.
is perfect.
That is correct. All right, let's move
I
on. Let's
love
talk
it.
about whatever it was we were talking about.
I
No
love
one is.
it. Yeah. And that's important to teach them. And I laugh because I make mistakes all the time. And my kids are pretty, like, they know their mom. And I was like, y'all know my life. Y'all know. We got to hurry up. Let's go. Y'all know, I'm like, Mom, did you do this yet? You know my life. You know I didn't do it. They laugh at me.
Good.
But it's
Better for
important.
them. It is. It
It's
really
important for them to know. And like right now, we're actually doing another transition. My daughter just started a new school.
Oh.
And but she's going to school with her brother, but the level of education from the school I moved her from, which is why I moved her, is completely different. And so I think their math class, she's like, we're doing decimals, Mom. And I'm like, really? And she's like, yeah, we weren't doing decimals, at my old school. I'm like, I know. So how do you feel about it? And I'm like, do you understand it? And she's like, nope. I'm like, and that's okay. Like, understand that you're transitioning. It's a new school. And I know she's a straight A student. I'm like, it's okay. The quarter's going to end. You may not have straight A's. It's okay. Because you're learning something completely new. You're learning, their grading scale is different. The information you're learning is different, which is why I moved you. So it's okay if you don't get it. And it's okay to tell the teacher, I don't understand, or, break it down for me, or can you help me so we can work on that? And so I always try to tell them, like, the same thing, like, no one's perfect. I make mistakes all the time. Y'all know my life. Y'all see me running around, but we're going to get it. We're going to get it together. They're like, Mom, I'm like, we're going to get it together. It's okay. I always pull through.
That's right. It'll come together somehow, and it will look like it was easy, but you guys know the secret behind the story, which is that it totally was not easy, and I almost dropped the ball.
No. And so it does make me feel good. And I try to show them the Chiquita Mack too, because the one time she had to do a project and she was like, I told the teacher she can just Google my mom. You can Google her. I was like, oh my God.
Google my mom. I love it.
Just Google her. I'm like, I'm not there yet, but I appreciate the confidence. Makes me feel pretty good.
Fantastic. Hell yeah, why not, right? Like to have your kid feel like, yeah, my mom is a thing. My mom is a powerhouse. My mom is a vibe.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is, like there is something powerful behind that. And I think it's good for both young men and young women.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to know more about your online business. And you teach English. You have a whole staff across the world, can't say in the US, in the world, that you are like, how do you, I'm trying to learn. This is new territory for me, because I have found fulfillment, and I do get my fulfillment from my individual clients, individual one-on-one, and I'm moving towards the passive side of courses and things. And I'm extremely terrified, but here we are. We're already doing it. I'm scared and I'm already doing it. So we're
terrified, schmerified.
Oh my gosh. Can you walk me through like your process and like how you have so many followers, you have a big platform behind you. Like, how did you even start and how did you get there?
Terrified. If
like
it helps,
me, I'm so
terrified.
scared.
Yeah. So, I mean, okay. So like we go back to 2018. My son was 4 or 5 months old. I took one of my contracts back. So there's this one interesting and I guess important element of my business is that there's 3 different things that I do. The first, and they all kind of stream into each other, or like it makes sense at the end. So the first thing is, and this is what I've been doing for the longest time, is that I go into different international companies here in my town and I teach business English to employees in their conference rooms. So I can have, I'll be in the conference rooms with a coffee in my hand, the boss and his secretary and 3 guys from HR and 2 of the engineers, and then someone else from purchasing. And then we are working through their job in their specific industry, talking in English to basically get them ready for answering the phone, emails, presentations, anything like that. So that's the first thing I do. And here, I've been here in Germany for almost a decade. And my town is pretty well known. It's got 2 very like huge castles, UNESCO castles. And there's good industries like right along the river. So I've worked with companies that are in big tools, like they could like pick up this house, and then small tools that are like handheld but diamond encrusted because they need to be the hardest substance known to man. I've worked with photographers, professional sports stars. I've worked in the fashion industry, with lawyers, with the medical industry, like all over the board. And I just noticed for myself, like I'm just kind of one of those people, I like systems, not in like an overly everything must be systematized kind of way, just how can I make life easier for myself. So I had a little notebook, for example, that I would take to every single client. And at the end of every class, I would write my plan for those guys for the next week. So I'd just go into next week's thing and I would write it down. And usually it was just one word, and I knew exactly what I was going to be doing with that group that day. So all I need to do is open up my schedule for the next week and be like, right, we're doing OSAS comp. Yes, OSAS comp is actually a legit like code to myself. It's actually, it's silly. It's the order of adjectives. So why is the blue big car wrong, and why is the big blue car right? And the truth of that is, and this is just something you need to know as an English teacher, is that there is an actual order of adjectives. It's opinion, size, age, shape, color, origin, material, and purpose. So OSAS comp. So I just wrote that in. Yeah, exactly. So I that's just the limit of how systematized they can be, for lack of a cuter word. So I like write that in, and I'm like, okay, I know exactly what I'm going to do with these guys next week. And then I go to a completely different company and I'm like, OSAS comp, they're ready for OSAS comp. Somebody asked me, why is it not the big blue car or whatever? So I'm like, okay, next week, OSAS. Can you see me?
Can you hear me?
I'm back according to my, perfect.
Okay. Good. Okay.
So cut to, I'm pregnant, very, very little pregnant. And my brothers-in-law say I should start webinars. Oh, that's kind of weird. I don't even know what I would do with that. I like, it's just not even in my thought process right now. No. And I couldn't tell them at the time I was pregnant. And then my son was about 4 months old when I went back to my first big contract job. It just takes up one full day, but it means that both of the kids need to be picked up by their grandmother at the end of kindergarten, because my contract runs longer than that, which is why if she gets sick, I have to cancel my class. So you're like, okay, so there's a lot happening here, right? And basically, the idea of courses came across me at some point when I was on Instagram. And I thought I could do OSAS comp as a lesson, and I could do the difference between much and many as a lesson. I have the same system for that. Like I have a system for the difference between much and many. I have a system for this and how I explain this. And when I come into a company for the first time, I always start at one place, like beginner, intermediate, or advanced level learners. I always start in the same place so that as we move along, I can just kind of refer back to this one thing. So this is just what I've always done. And I took all of that, I put it onto video. And now one of my brothers-in-law is a videographer. So he helped me with my first course, but it was in front of like a whiteboard, and I was teaching, and there's a lot of editing, and it was difficult. And then at one point, my best friend, and I've known him for about 14 years at that point, also came onto Instagram, and I was like, dude. And I knew he had just moved to Switzerland. He's kind of nearby. They moved for his wife's job, but he's at home with the kids. he's like, I'm so bored. I need help.
You're like, yeah.
I need something other than just refreshing Facebook every day. So I put myself on Instagram. I'm like, cool, I have a project. Do you want in? He's like, sure. So from that moment on, then I had my business partner. And I think I had like 2,000 followers on Instagram when I opened our online school with a course. We didn't have any idea how to sell a course. We didn't have any idea how to talk about a course and how to show up on social media, all this stuff. But we had our course. So that was like, at least that element was finished. And then from then on, we created another course and some more courses. Then we were hired by a Fortune 500 company in India to create a service-based course. And then we kept the rights to that course as well, added it all together. And now we have the Business English Academy, which is like a self-paced course people can join in whenever they feel like it. So I show up on social media and I do two things. You gather your followers and then you convert them into buyers. And clients of your course. And then so in and around, we opened the online school in 2019 with the course, October 2019. October 2020, I had a 1 hour, like a girlfriend and I who had kind of bigger pages in our industry just said, you know what, we've noticed a lot of new teachers in the online industry. Let's do a what we wish we'd known a year ago.
Wow.
So we did. And then that started the second, I guess, no, this is now the third niche within my business, which is helping other online teachers create courses, memberships, and flourishing online students or online schools using Instagram primarily as a way to find students.
And you're amazing at it. Like, you
Thank
are amazing. And it's just so scary. Like, and I always have I always say, to my following, like, I have the conversation with fear each and every day because I do. Like, I'm terrified. I don't know how this is going to go. It's something new. But you know what? It's here now.
Yeah. And, I mean, so I got into this because I wanted to eliminate the need to be in other places. And because I hate. I don't like that word, but I really dislike canceling on someone at all.
Yes.
Right. Like and if I'm sick, I can power through. I will show up to a Zoom call, like
I know you would.
whatever. I know.
You're sick.
Exactly. We were scheduled to do this. I was like, I'll be there. And you're like, no. But like, I would do it. I would show up to a Zoom call sick. But if my baby is sick, that's different. You can't, it's not like just wait there a little longer, child. I'm focusing on this now. You're like, sorry, I can't be here. So for me, the big thing was like, how can I have both? And for that, the answer was the course. It was creating something where I'm putting my knowledge into this one thing,
right,
and then showing up in certain ways so that people can buy that course whenever they're ready. Now it's changed again a little bit. I've just opened a membership on the English Anywhere side. We're talking about going viral and video content and batching content earlier and all of these things.
Savior.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And you have to, like, in order to truly make it work in a way that is friendly to you, you have to make these systems that allow you to basically, like, I actually wake up in the morning and the first thing I do is like post a reel that I probably filmed months ago. I actually started this a couple of months ago. Oh, maybe more than that now. So back in June, my family and I were going to Austria for a holiday for my birthday. I was turning 38. Yes. Yeah. And I was on holiday and I went crazy viral. Like I had 6 reels just shoot up to 600,000 views out of nowhere. Like I told you earlier, Chiquita, I went from 40,000 followers to 120,000 followers within like 2-3 weeks. It was just insanity. And I was on holiday for my own birthday. And at one point, like the plan was always that my husband would go out bike riding with the kids. We brought their bikes on purpose. I did not bring my bike on purpose. I have no interest in mountain biking in Austria. So there was like, it's not like I stayed home and, had to create content or whatever. I was happy to do it, but it very much made it clear to me, I need something. I need to have like a bank of stuff. So a couple months later, my mom and dad, my brother and his family all came in for holiday, and I batch created about 45 reels so that I had basically the entire summer off. I would wake up, share, and walk away. And then I've also got a virtual assistant now. She'll come in, she'll engage, she'll do all of this stuff, but I'm just creating the content and then walking away, basically. And then in that way, it actually works. And it allows me to both be there for my kids when they're sick and to write ebooks when I feel like it, and to, to show up to certain webinars and things like this, that then allows me that freedom. And that's what I wanted.
And I love that. So like, and I batch too. So my content, like if you go to my drafts, it's like video, and I'm like, I'm gonna do this one, and this one today, and then this one. And my captions are already written out.
Exactly.
And, I just recently brought someone on my team, and she just started to help with the engagement part of it. So that's something new for me. Like when I say I'm doing new stuff this year, I'm like, I'm taking a step out there, but that does help me. My email, I love to write. So writing emails does not take me that long. It just comes like, I have a topic that I want the month to be about as far as emails are concerned. And then I just get them out and I send them to, I have another person on my team that like edits them, make sure that I don't misspell anything.
Perfect.
Send them off, and then that happens. And so I'm like, got that going. That's good.
Yeah.
And now we're on the course part, and I'm like, but hopefully we'll have this conversation again in the next 6 months, and I can be like, oh my God, it's like, it's up and it's moving. And that's my goal. It makes me sad to be like, I can't empower, I can't meet with. So as part of the course, I have, monthly group calls, so I can help a bunch of women at one time now and be empowered with, on my time when I have the time to do that. And so it's just switching gears, but also making it work for you. And
which is like kind of what we're so good at, right? Especially as moms, you're like, well, I can't do this. And I found, like, for me, I found it was really interesting because I have the perfect excuse to say my time is valuable. Because my time is not my time, it's my kids' time. At some point, of course, you've got to get to the point where you say, okay, my time is also my time. And that's okay too. But like, I remember, also feeling like I didn't show up on Instagram in the first place for a bunch of one-on-ones. I was not here looking for more one-on-ones. I had enough work. I was here looking for a different way of doing things so that I could be both a present mom and someone who had something for themselves. That was the only thing that inspired me daily. So when I start showing up like this, and now, now I have the English Anywhere side, we've got on the social media side, I've got 135,000 followers on that side.
Girl.
Just got 135 today. And I thank you. I was watching it like a hawk because I think I'm like it, as I said,
going up.
1,000 new followers in the last 4 days, which is pretty, like, that's more than usual. But that's not what I meant. So like we have 135,000 on that side. We've got the online school team members. We've got other teachers that are working. So people come to me, they want one-on-ones, and I say, I'm not taking any new clients. However, and then we've also got the course. So I can say, there's pros and cons to both. Do you want self-paced? Do you want be able to watch and binge whenever you're ready? Or do you want someone to hold you accountable? Because then for me, it's a very, very clear answer. Okay, you want this or you want this. Now, then I also have the Balancing Teachers side, which is a secondary public Instagram page. And that one is more about, talking to teachers and coaches and people on how they can create courses and memberships and things like this. And I started showing up on that page, and now I've got people who want who want that next level. And I love doing that next level. It's just that I cannot take 3 or 4 clients per month in that way,
Yeah.
because the whole point of me being here is to reduce that time. So it's, it's memberships, it's courses, and really, even when it comes to English, and I think, so I started my online school in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Courses were not new then. They were not. But there was a massive shift in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
I remember in 2019, I was trying to convince people that courses were still good for them. It might not be this, but it's still good. It might not be that, but it's still good.
Mm-hmm.
And now I don't even have to do that anymore. Courses are next level. People trust them and know them. And as long as they trust you as a person to provide that information, they will trust that that course will have value. So like we are still always surprised to wake up and see like, oh, we've made money in our sleep again. Or I've taken my daughter to sports. I've taken my daughter to her sports and we're making money. I'm playing bubbles with my son in the backyard and I'm making money. Like I'm doing the laundry in my house in a very strange way. I am a stay-at-home mom. It's just that I'm a stay-at-home mom with a course and a mission.
You're making the passive.
And that, for me, that just feels so much better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that part I think is important too.
And then we've got the team members for different projects and
it's just awesome. And I think that part's important too, because when I make the goal, like the goals I made for myself this year, and I like message Carla like, this is my goal. You think I can do it? And she's like, yeah, you're gonna do it, But part of that was understanding, because like I said, I felt bad, like, God, I'm not gonna be able to meet one-on-one. But realistically, I can't. The goals that I make, I'm not gonna be able to do that one-on-one anyway. I'm gonna have to reach a larger audience with already providing my courses, my content, my knowledge in a way that they can just go out there and grab it. It's me still. Hi. Just you can binge it if you want.
Yeah. And that is the other thing. And that's why I wanted to say that is like, we can almost guilt ourselves into feeling like, well, I can't do this anymore, so I have to do this other thing instead. Like, no. I'm streamlining this, and this is good for you. Honestly, this is good for you. This will help you. Like, your program is not less of a program for helping more people at one time. If anything, it's more of a program for helping more people at one time.
I had to get that in there. So, but I'm very proud of it though. I'm very proud. I'm excited.
I can't wait to see it.
Oh, yeah. So I'm just like fascinated. I always look at your content and what you're doing, and I'm always like, you're so amazing. And then meet you in person. It's cool as that. Well, I met you in person first, and then I followed you.
Yeah,
you're the same person. You're just as awesome in person as you are when you show up for your audience, and I just think that is absolutely amazing. I hope we get to see each other again. Maybe there'll be another trip and we can meet.
Yeah, Carla was talking about Mexico, or I mean, that's woohoo. Yeah.
Just let me know, because I'm on the next flight.
Right. Like, yeah. I mean, there's something so incredibly valuable about community, about having people come together with shared missions, even if it's not like exact same missions, but shared missions, sharing about them, leaning on each other in this way. I mean, you and I, we were roommates back in Spain. Oh my goodness. It feels like a million years away, yet it wasn't even 1 year ago.
I know.
But look at the things we've both done with our businesses since 9 months ago.
Yeah. And I'm very proud of that too, because like, even when I finished like when I finished recording, and then I looked at everything and I'm like, okay. And I called my mom. I'm like, I'm finally done. And I remember like, this is something that I spoke to you guys about while we were in that room. And I'm like, okay, you have passive income. You have this. I do. Oh my God, I do. I have to make it. And I actually did it. And I'm like, oh my God, okay, I'm actually doing the things that I told you all that I would do. And that makes me feel good too. It's like, okay, I'm about it. Let's go.
Well, I don't know if you were there. Maybe you weren't there at that moment, but I remember. So like I was chatting with, no, that's what it was. You were already at the house. I flew in from Germany into Barcelona, met up with a bunch of people in Barcelona, and then we flew from Barcelona together to Menorca. And while we were waiting, I actually had some like one-on-one time with Carrie. And her and I had also never met, but we'd got, been in similar circles, and thanks to Carla and all of that.
Mhm.
And she was like, "Oh, Chiquita is amazing." She was like, "You talk to her and you say, like, if she tells you she's going to do something, she will do it." And that is, probably the nicest thing you can say about anyone, really, because
Yeah.
that when you mean it like that, that it's just so pure. But I think as well for you, like, you didn't hear that part. And I think you should know that that's how you come across. That's how
Oh,
people see you,
wow.
is you are a doer. You are someone who says, I'm going to do something, and then you don't stop until it's done. And
Yeah.
that's magical.
That's awesome. Wow. I love her too, by the way.
Mm.
Whenever me and her met through, through Carla, of course, and I'm like, okay, what do you think about this? I would send her some copy. What do you think about this? And then I'm like, she was like, oh, just change this. I'm like, okay, I'll redo it. And then I'll do it. Okay, what do you think? She's like, did you do it already? I'm like, yeah, what do you think? She's like, oh my gosh.
Well, she wasn't kidding. You do it.
I have to, and part of my thought, so like people always ask, like, aren't you exhausted? Aren't you tired? So I told people, you have to know your body and your energy, right? Like
Mhm.
there's certain parts of the day where you have the highest energy, and there's certain parts of the day where it's just like really, really low.
Yeah.
And even though I wake up early, I'm not going that early. I have to drink my
Yeah.
Celsius and my tea to get going. But my highest part of my day is at night.
Yeah.
And so I get mostly everything done then.
Mm.
But then I've also noticed when it's like, how do I make time? There's pockets of my day where I'm not really, like, even though the kids have practice and their practice is like 2 to 3 hours, I'm sitting there. Now I bring my laptop with me and I'm working.
Yep.
And so I try to utilize my time the best that I can to get it done, because I'm like, yeah, they may have practice, but in that time I've already did my February emails are done, my March emails are done, my
Totally.
my quotes are done, my this is done, so I'm straight, I'm good. I can do whatever I have to do for them, or
Yeah.
for my military side, because the Chiquita Mack is already taken care of. And that's kind of how my thought process is. Like during my break, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get this course recorded because I have the time to do that.
Mhm.
I made worksheets too, and I love doing graphics. So that's not work for me. That's just like
Yeah.
stimulating my brain. I'm like, oh, this is artsy.
Isn't it funny how, like, things that we used to consider exhausting. Like, I was so overwhelmed by the idea of a webinar. I was overwhelmed by the idea of video content, or even going live on Instagram. Now you're like, yeah, just jump on live and talk about my products and services and da da da. Like the growth that you go through as an entrepreneur, the growth that you go through as someone who's just like, you know what? I'm not gonna be stoppable here. Like, I've just chosen to not be stoppable.
Mm, I love it.
And then you just power through and get it
Do it.
done. And then, I mean, knowing your energy is huge.
Mm.
I remember Ailey talking about that, and also saying something when we were in that big room in Menorca, talking about, like, don't think about it when you are doing it. Think about how you feel when something is done. Like,
Mm.
afterwards, are you exhausted or energized by it? And I'm like, oh, I mean, that is such gold advice,
Yeah.
to think about, yeah, this lights me up. This really makes me happy. I want to show up on this. I want to work on a Sunday. I
Mm.
want to,
It's not work.
show
Like,
up and
it's not
continue.
work.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
want to interview this person, or I want to show
Yeah.
up to this meeting, or I want to get this part done on a Sunday, so that Monday I can wake up and be like, yeah, this
Yeah.
is my life.
I love
I
it.
like this. Yeah, exactly.
I love
It
it.
is.
It just
And
doesn't end. It just doesn't. Like after I accomplish one thing, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this. And like I told Carla, like we're gonna make this amount this year, and we're gonna do that, and then I'm
I
gonna do
believe
this.
you.
I told her, was it yesterday, the day before yesterday? I was like, you're stuck with me until I make my first million, and she's like, okay, that's fine,
Okay.
because it's gonna happen. So
Yeah.
but I like making goals like that because I feel like I can so do it. Like I can
Yeah.
definitely get it done,
Fantastic.
and I get to meet people like you that inspire me. And I also wanted to say thank you, because you've been there every step since I met you. And anytime I DM you, I'm like, what do you think, or how can I do this? You've always like 100% do this, and people are not always like that or willing to help. So thank you for being a part of my journey, and you're stuck
Always.
with me too, by the way. So
Always. Million and beyond,
a
Chiquita.
million
Million
and
and beyond.
beyond. Like, okay, let's make 2 million.
Exactly. Yeah, I believe there is such power in people who are just like unwilling to be jealous, unwilling to be petty or whatever. If I have advice that, and sometimes it's a bad thing because not everybody wants advice, and that's fine too. I just have to remember to stop myself. But I'm
I'll
like,
take
if
it.
I know something, I'm going to tell you exactly what I know and what
Please
you
tell
should do.
me so I can write
Okay.
it down.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, not everyone's like
Yeah.
that. I remember when I first started out. What was that? 19? Yeah.
Mm.
December 2019 when I first was like, okay, I'm going to do this thing, whatever this thing is. I didn't know yet. This is where we ended up. And there would be like some people that I was following for a while, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna just ask them, like, and just see, like,
Yeah.
like how you get
What would you
started.
do?
Or
Recommend? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
heard crickets, like,
Mm.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's not very nice. And
Yeah.
then there's some other people that I would ask, and they're like, oh, you like, I used this web designer, I did this, or I used this to start my blog. And I'm like, wow. And I always thought to myself, like, I never want to make anyone feel how those other people remain nameless made me feel. So if you
Yeah.
have any advice, or if
Mhm.
I can help you in any way or just steer you a certain way, I'm willing to do
Mhm.
that because it wasn't given to me like that at first. And I just
Yeah.
don't think that's very nice.
Yeah.
Like, we can always offer something, like something, we have to
Yeah.
stick together
Why?
as
I
women.
mean, really, that's probably the reason that why that's probably exactly the reason why I started the Balancing Teachers page, only because for me, it's like if I know something, if I struggled through something,
Mhm.
ideally, you won't have to.
Yeah.
Life is better if I struggled through something so that you don't
Don't
have
you too.
to, and then you can tell me what you struggled through so that I don't have to. Like, that's the point. And I
Hmm.
think that kind of community, you can still find that online. I think some people might not think so. There's always going to be people who are not on the same page, who are like, I want to keep all of these secrets to myself and not tell other people yet. I'm just not that person.
Yeah.
I'm
Me
not.
either.
I'm like, I'm an English teacher, and if there's other English teachers out there that need this, you need to know this. And now, we've got in our communities, we've got French teachers, German teachers, Spanish teachers, and then also yoga teachers and
Yeah.
qigong teachers. And you're like, okay, I mean, all of this information. Yeah, this translates. It's not simply an English teacher thing. You take this, you put in your own information,
Hmm.
and you can do something amazing with it. So it really is like service-based
Yeah.
industries online. Like, if you're a coach, if you're a teacher, this is information you can value from, then come, listen, enjoy, and
Enjoy.
make your business better.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Empowerment, coming together, believing in yourself, and making it happen.
Yeah,
That's all we're about. We're going to make it
exactly.
happen.
Yeah.
So, do you have we're getting ready to wrap it up here, any offers, anything like that you want to throw out to the audience?
Yeah, I guess if you're an online coach, or if you're looking for, I'm assuming most of the people here wouldn't be interested in business English. But if you're an online coach and you're looking to help people and use Instagram or social media in order to do that, we do have one-on-one services, but we've also got this fantastic membership of people that are just like Chiquita and I, just trying to make a business into something for our own reasons, whatever that might be. We've got sessions on writing sales pages and creating challenges, but also how to use social media, how to create engagement, things like this, and then how to create your own courses. So if you're interested, of course, come find me on Balancing Teachers, and I will happily tell you all about the membership.
Yay!
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for being a part of the Beauty in You. And like I said, a part of my journey since day one. And
Mhm.
yeah, you're stuck with me. As long as you're okay with that,
Oh, yes.
we're good.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You're stuck with me right back.
Yay! I'm okay with that too.
Good.
But thank you so much,
Thank you
everyone.
for
I
having
hope you
me.
enjoyed. Make sure you go take a look at Kate's pages. She's so inspiring. Her content is amazing, by the way. She does it like it's just, she don't even think about it. It's like
Yeah.
so simple. It's really, really good content, and I
Aw,
promise you will love it. So
thank you.
until next time,
Until
until
next
we meet
time,
again, and I will definitely be hitting you up, keeping you just up to date on my progress on everything.
keep me posted.
I will. Oh, you have a
Yay.
good night because it's nighttime over there and it's just getting
Thank
ready
you.
to be 4 for me. But you have a great night.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.